Start planning your 2025 travel with a getaway to Salishan Coastal Lodge, where wellness, adventure, and sustainability meet on the Oregon coast. It's the perfect place to reconnect with yourself, loved ones, and nature, all while enjoying 20% off stays with code CITYCAST. Make 2025 a year of intentional restorative travel. Book your stay at salishan.com with code CITYCAST to save 20% and start the year with purpose and connection. Portland is widely known for its coffee and craft beer, but did you know we also have an amazing tea scene? Our city has a long history of launching successful international tea brands. It's also home to well-loved independent tea houses that serve as neighborhood hubs, much like our bars and coffee shops. And with the weather being as it is and dry January coming up, we figured we share a few more third space options. So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with local tea expert Percy Scoffern about the ins and outs of Portland's gongfu-style tea scene. It's Thursday, December 19th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Before we jump in, can you help define the specific type of Portland tea scene that we're talking about today? Because I think some listeners, when they're like, oh, tea, they think about traditional British afternoon tea with the little sandwiches and biscuits. But that's not it, right?
Yeah. So, don't get me wrong. The British tea spaces are still around here. But as far as the thing that is more unique to Portland, at least in the United States, is gongfu-style tea or gongfu cha. And that's a style of tea that originates from Southeast China and is a style that has been kind of growing and evolving over several hundred years. It is very much a folk style of tea. And this is actually the area of China where tea originates from.
Oh, so that's like OG tea. Like this is
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, there are tea trees there that are over 2,000 years old,
Yeah, I just looked up because I was like, Gong Fu, like, what does that mean? It means making tea with skill.
Yes. Another way of saying it is it's kind of a way of tea through slowness and patience. So the process of going through it, it's not the kind of, you walk in to your little local cafe, you grab a cup and you walk out the door. It's the kind of thing where you cannot take this on the go. You have to sit down and dedicate time to doing this.
Is it really the predominant style, or is it just the kind of style that you're most interested in?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the predominant style. The predominant style would still be kind of Western English style. You have your tea bag or maybe some Earl Grey loose leaf.
Okay.
But it's more so that Portland is, as far as in the United States, where it really prevails more than almost any other city.
I'm hearing Julia Fiaioni, our producer, is asking me to ask you about the fairness pitcher. Can you explain what the fairness pitcher is relation to gongfu? Yeah.
So this is actually a very interesting thing, and this gets into the communal aspects of gongfu tea. So let's say you're sitting down with 3 other people. You pour off into the person's cup on your left, and then you get to the person in front of you, you get to the person to your right, and then you get to yourself. First person you pour for might have a really weak cup, and by the time you get to the end, it might be so astringent that you can't drink it. So the idea is you decant it into some type of vessel, a fairness cup, a pitcher of some sort, so that you can ensure that everyone gets an equal experience of the tea.
Oh, that's so sweet. The fairness pitcher.
Yeah, it's making sure that everyone has the same experience and everyone is getting a good tea. If you're serving with other people, it's very necessary to make sure that everyone gets the same thing.
Oh, that's so sweet. So, okay, briefly, could you tell us about Portland's history with tea? We've had quite a few large national brands that were started here. I know Stash started here, and then it begat so many different other labels. Can you just give us a quick little history on that?
So, I don't actually know the history of Stash specifically, but there's other tea brands, like there's Tazo tea, which is usually the tea that you'll see when you go into Starbucks.
Yeah.
That tea, and then also Smith Tea, which is another good local tea brand, they were all actually started by the same guy.
Stephen Smith, right?
Stephen Smith, yeah. of Stephen Smith Tea Maker.
So, what are some of your favorite tea houses in town? Like, let's narrow it down to your top 5.
So I'd say top 5, I don't know, it feels a little weird, but I'll start with my least favorite.
Okay.
So I'd say my least favorite, although it's not bad, it's just not my favorite, would be Portal Tea. You might know this place because they have a location in Selwood, and the front of the business is out of like a red caboose train car. It's a very nice place.
That sounds really cute.
Yeah, and they have you can sit in the caboose and go like climb a ladder or something to sit up above. And they've got a little room off to the side with a fireplace. It's very cozy.
Aw.
After that, I would say would be Fly Awake Tea House.
Okay.
And this one is off of Mississippi Avenue. It's kind of like, this is gongfu-style tea mixed with like kind of a hipster coffee shop vibe. So the entrance is like there's like a garage door that's off the back of an alley, and you walk in and it's just a big open space loft. And very good teas. I just don't make my way over there very much. One quirk of it, so with gongfu-style tea, you usually serve yourself. You are entirely in charge of the own process of making the tea. At Fly Awake, they make the tea for you.
Oh, okay.
Some people that I know who are much more into gongfu-style tea, including myself, don't really like that. However, if you're unfamiliar with it or you're going there with a friend, it's perfectly fine. You can drink your tea and just wait for them to fill your cup up with you, and you can have conversation with whoever you're having company with.
Why don't you like them to make your own tea? I'm assuming the concern is that they'll oversteep or understeep?
Well, not really. I think that they do make the tea very well. For me, it's that sometimes I prefer my tea to be a bit more astringent than others, a bit stronger. But part of it, too, is that if it's a busy night, you have to wait for the person to make their rounds, doing everyone else's tea, and eventually get back around to you. And if I'm not there with someone, then it's like, okay, I drank my tea, and I gotta wait for 5 minutes for the guy to come back around.
I hear that. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have Portal Tea, Fly Awake Tea House. We're at number 3 now.
Yeah, so number 3 would be Smith Tea Maker.
Okay.
They're not gongfu style, they're a bagged tea, but they have pretty solid green teas and very good herbals, in my opinion. And they have 2 locations, one in Northwest on, I think it's 21st Ave, and another in Southeast, like very inner Southeast, close to the river industrial area. And I particularly like that location because have you been to a Krispy Kreme Donuts before?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, everyone loves the place because you walk in and, you see the red light on, you get to see the whole machine doing all the donuts. So their location in Southeast is their main manufacturing and packaging facility. And behind the counter, they have a huge glass window wall, and you can watch them packaging the tea and processing it. And I think it's just awesome to be able to see that. It's really fun, honestly.
So it's basically their tasting room, right?
Yeah, it's their tasting room. You can go in there and buy pretty much whatever you want. They have some specialty teas that you can buy there as well that may or may not be accessible in other places.
Cool. All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, more of Portland's top tea houses. Experience art, nature, and science like you've never seen before at Exquisite Creatures Revealed, the newest exhibit from artist Christopher Marley, on view now at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. Exquisite Creatures Revealed features over 10,000 rare birds, reptiles, insects, and other real specimens from around the world in stunning detail, including the first preserved giant corpse flower, which only blooms every 5 to 10 years. And I wonder if it smells, because, it's called the corpse flower for a reason. Visitors of all ages will be awed by the plants, insects, and animals in the exhibit, all of which have been collected or reclaimed by the artist through sustainable means. And just in time for the gift-giving season, you can save on an OMSI membership for you or a loved one, 15% off now through January 5th. Head to omsi.edu. That's omsi.edu. Hey there, listeners. Imagine giving a child the gift of wonder and possibility, one book at a time. United Way of the Columbia Willamette has joined forces with the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to spark a lifelong love of reading for kids right here in our community. And here's how you can help. For just $30, you can cover a year of books for one child. That's 12 opportunities for a family to bond, dream, and learn together. Or you can go big with $150 and support a child from birth to age 5. An entire early education journey made richer by your generosity. Your donation does more than deliver books. It builds brighter futures. Make a difference that lasts a lifetime. Visit unitedwaypdx.org to make your donation today. Okay, so top 2 now.
Okay, top 2. Number 2 would be Bardo. I really love Bardo, and I would probably go there way more often if it was closer. So Bardo is on Northeast Killingsworth, and I think it's like 31st, 33rd, something like that.
Oh, I know exactly where this is really close to Wilder.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I go to that area often because it's a really cutie pie little area.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, you have Gabiano's, Wilder.
And then there's the Kennedy School not far from there as well.
I have a few friends that live there, so even better. And I walk by Bardo every time, and I'm just like, what is it?
So the thing that I think Portland Tea Spaces does especially well is having curated spaces. When you walk into Bardo, everything is very much kind of a minimalist wabi-sabi type style. It's a very relaxing, very meditative place. And something I like is they always have vinyl music playing through the space. It's a very small space. But again, this is another gongfu-style tea house. And the owners are just very lovely. They have very good tea. I'm not exactly sure what they would call their specialty, but I think their specialty is with oolong teas and green teas. They do them very, very well. They always just hit my body in a very good way. And it's an extremely relaxing space. Also, something that's unique to them is off to one of their side rooms is a whole tatami room. So the entire floor is tatami mats, and you sit on the ground.
Isn't that feels so Japanese?
It is, and you have to take off your shoes before you go in to keep it, clean.
Are there other tea houses where you have to take your shoes off, or is this the one?
Yes, and I'll get to that next.
Oh.
And something worth note of Bardo is, like I said, it's a very relaxing space. They actually have a meditation hour on Saturday mornings where you go there and instead of serving yourself, one of the co-owners serves you and you go through kind of like a semi-guided meditation time for the morning.
And what's interesting about Bardo is for sure when I'm looking at their teas, they're like, oh, this is a gongfu style tea, blah, blah, blah. But then they have these very clearly Japanese influences, and they're also representing a lot of Indian teas and incense and all this stuff. It's almost just all the tea cultures mixed in, and they're curating the best of what they like.
And another thing of just a little point worth of note to give them, most of the teas that they source, which they source directly from China themselves, most of the farmers are women. So the women are the producers and the farmers that make these teas that they source them from.
Oh, wow. I'm also just looking at their wares. They sell amazing teapots. Really expensive. I'm not gonna lie here, but they're gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that's especially nice about them, as well as the next place I'll mention, is almost everything that's in there is either vintage or completely handmade. So it's not a mass-produced thing. It's a guy in his studio making almost everything that is in there. And they have a very good connection with all of their makers as well.
Yeah. Well, what's your number one tea? I mean, I wish we had a drum roll, All right, number one tea.
All right, number one, Enthia Tea House. This is on Southeast Milwaukee in the Brooklyn neighborhood. And again, another gongfu style place. In my opinion, this is the pinnacle of what you can get for gongfu tea in the city. Like Bardo, you have to take your shoes off. And this isn't just for with Bardo, it was just the tatami room. To go into Enthia, you have to take your shoes off at the door. So, and they do provide slippers. It kind of weirds some people out, but they refresh them daily. They replace them I think it's monthly, so they're always totally clean.
And there's a guy playing the koto,
Oh yeah, so they have a lot of community events.
which is very Japanese, right? Like that is a Japanese instrument.
Yeah. So they have a lot of community events. Every Friday night, they have what's called Speakeasy, which is a conversation-led community night. They have a topic of conversation to, start things out. You get served by someone else, and you drink through 3 pots of tea throughout the night.
Wow.
And it's a great place. I meet a lot of people there. It's a lovely time. Every first and third Sunday, they have koto playing, like you said, and they'll have a tea bar available where, same deal. There's a table off to the side, and you can be served by someone instead of serving yourself, or you can just, sit at your own table by yourself with a friend, have your own tea.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I do want to correct myself. We know the koto from Japan, but I'm 100%. It was like invented in China, like most Japanese things. I said it.
Yeah. And every Wednesday, they have what's called tea bar. I think it goes from 2 to 6, or it's from 1 to 6. And it's kind of a $5-ish cover. So you sit down, and however many pots of tea they go through, it's $5. So if you sit down for like 45 minutes, that's maybe 1 pot of tea, and you pay $5. If you want to hang out for like 3 hours, maybe you go through 3 pots of tea, and that's $15. But it's very economical. It's a very chill time, and everyone kind of gathered around the same table, so it's nice conversational time, but it's not as led as the Friday night, so you can just kind of let the conversations wander around.
So have you ever been to the Japanese Gardens tea house?
I have. I'm actually a member of the Japanese Gardens, which is nice because public open hours is 10 a.m., but they actually open the cafe at 9. So if you're a member and you're there at member hours, you can go early and avoid the crowds.
I know that, Percy.
Yeah, little secret
because I'm
tip.
also a member. Yeah. Well, what do you think? Because I enjoyed my experience there.
Yeah, I think it's also a great place. I really only go for the matcha and maybe some of the miso soup as well.
I love the snacks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty okay. I don't really love it because it's always super crowded and really loud unless you're specifically trying to get there at a quiet time.
I can totally see that. It does feel like it's an extension of the gift shop. You know what I mean? Like, even though it's not at all connected, but it feels that way.
Yeah.
It's like, now you drink tea, and I get it. It's a gorgeous space, though, and I feel like if you go, everyone should go at least once and experience it because it's really,
Yeah,
and the people who work
so.
there are so sweet, and like, it's a nice vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are some other tips you can give listeners who are new to tea houses? Like, what are some immediate do's and don'ts regarding tea etiquette?
Yeah, so I mean, really, it's just like if there is a rule specific to a certain tea house, it's going to be pretty clearly posted, like at both Bardo and Enthea as far as the shoes. Just like respect it as much as you can. I'd say, I mean, besides that, there's not really a whole lot. The only thing is like, tea houses are a very communal space. It's not like a coffee shop where there's a guy sitting next to you working on his laptop, and you're just like, oh, what are you working on? I go to tea houses all the time, and I'm like, I strike up conversations with completely random people, and they strike up conversations with me. It's like, it's totally acceptable to just strike up a conversation with a stranger and get to know them. I'd say really the only other kind of don't tell someone that what they're having is bad.
Who would do that? It's like going to a restaurant and being like, you ordered the wrong thing. That's terrible.
I've seen it happen.
Really?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. People, when they get really into gongfu, honestly, avoid the online spaces because it gets super snobbish super quick. To me, the divine line is when you try and like go from just enjoying the tea to trying to perfect the tea. It's when you get to like the equivalent of like being a wine snob for tea.
Right,
that's when
right.
it gets to like, okay, buddy, you're going a little too far there. Dial it back a little.
Yeah.
It's
I hear
tea.
that.
It's okay.
Okay, so don't go in and be like, that's a terrible pairing.
Yeah. I mean, you're allowed to say like, oh, yeah, I'm not a fan of that tea. Just don't tell someone that they're making the wrong decision for drinking what they like.
Yeah.
Everyone has different tastes.
Yeah, this sounds just like literally like general etiquette. Is there anything else that you think would be like, oh, expect this,
I'd say expect some odd types of people. Like for myself, I'm at Enthea all the time, and you have no clue who is going to walk through that door. There are people there who are doctors and lawyers and accountants, and there are people who are like jewelry makers and like ancestral tarot readers and poets. There are people who look every sort of different way in how they dress, how they look, how they act. You might see some odd characters is, I guess, the best way to say it. And don't be surprised.
Well, since I asked you if you've been to the Japanese tea house, I'm now curious. Have you been to the Lansu Chinese Garden tea house?
Embarrassingly, I have not.
How dare you?
I have actually never been to the garden either, which is insane because I've lived around here my entire life.
I can't believe this. I'm joking, Percy. I didn't mean to call you out. Well, Percy, thank you so much for coming on and just giving us a little view into this world that I honestly did not know at all existed in Portland.
Yeah.
I know that we had like a ton of tea houses. Our newsletter editor, Rachel, is a huge tea lover, but I didn't know there was like this vibrant culture, behind it.
Yeah, and it's a small enough community that you can really get to know a lot of people and make some really awesome friendships with people. I've made friendships that are pretty long lasting that I really appreciate that I've made through the community of tea.
Well, thanks again, Percy.
Yeah, of course.
And now for some events happening this week. Every Thursday on the show, we like to bring you a few recommendations to help you plan your weekend. And here's what we got. If you're still looking for last-minute gifts, Artifact Creative Recycle in Southeast Portland is still running their holiday market through the 30th. They're a curated boutique with vintage housewares, decor, and clothing, so there's a high probability they might be selling some unique gifts. Also running through Saturday is an immersive art experience on the second floor of the Lloyd Center in the former Foot Locker store. A walk in Winter Wonderland is completely free, all ages, and features wintertime works from over 40 local artists. And this Friday and Saturday evening at the Lansu Chinese Garden, you can celebrate Dongje, which translates to winter solstice in Chinese. It literally means the peak of winter, and they're calling it a Chinese holiday party, and there's plenty of cultural immersion activities and treats for everyone. I bet there will probably have some tea, too. For even more local events, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Portland, or head over to portland.citycast.fm/events. We'll throw a link to all the details in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend, rate or leave us a review. It really does help us out. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.